Hi there everyone, my name's Dave West. I hope you're all doing well. So welcome back to the ultimate video test, and today I'm checking out the Samsung Galaxy S22 Plus. Now, as with all ultimate video tests, I'll leave all of the main camera specifications down in the description, and I'll just run through some of the high level features throughout this video to help save you some time. Now, the camera hardware is identical to the smaller Galaxy S22, but it would have been a bit lazy to have been sent this phone and just label the other video S22/S22 Plus. I appreciate many people may want to actually buy the S22 Plus and be interested in its video capabilities. So I'm starting with the front-facing camera, and this is a 10 megapixel autofocus camera, and this can record video at up to 4K at 60 frames per second. So this is 4K at 30 frames per second, and you get optional electronic image stabilization. I've got it switched on, but you can switch it off. But my recommendation is to just leave it switched on and let the phone do all the work for you. Now you get stereo microphones, you get left-right recording, and if you use the Video Pro mode, you get omnidirectional audio recording, which also uses a microphone at the back of the phone as well. So you get good localization on voices and exterior sounds. Now, as far as image processing is concerned, so we get those signature blown out highlights in the background there. If I tip the camera up this way, you can see there it corrects itself. And as I bring it back, it will automatically adjust the exposure just so you can get the focus on me rather than the background. It's not really too much of a big problem because you can actually tap on the background if you like, and then reduce the exposure, as you can see there, and that gives you a little bit more of an even image. But I say, just let the phone do the work. I mean, if you're going to be doing selfie video, the preference is on the subject rather than the background, so it doesn't really matter too much. And the image stabilization, as you can see here, is really good and helps smooth out the background, even if you're going to go for a quick run. Alright, so here's 4K 60 then from the selfie camera. So still great quality video, but with the smoother movement which is afforded by recording at 60 frames per second. Now, when you're recording video at 60 FPS, it doesn't look like the image is being stabilized, but trust the phone, it is doing it, and it'll apply all of that in post-processing and smoothing out the video. So there's the main 30 and 60 frames per second options from the selfie camera. So in addition to the standard video mode, you also get this really good portrait video mode on the selfie camera. What you do get is really nice quality video with a great portrait cutout effect. It's not too harsh, it doesn't look like I've been plastered onto the background. And the amount of detail on offer, even though this is only at 1080p at 30 frames per second, is really good. And I think the overall effect looks really nice, and I don't think anyone's going to be too disappointed with this particular option. And even if I go into slightly darker areas, you can see that the phone does a good job of auto adjusting in order to keep the subject in the frame nicely exposed. Alright, so spin around to the rear cameras then. We're starting off with the 12 megapixel ultra wide angle camera. So this is recording at 4K at 30 frames per second. And you can see you get a nice wide field of view with this camera. At 4K 30 you can adjust the cameras, so you can cycle between all of the different lenses, which I will go through in a moment. And you get nice smooth video stabilization when using all of the 3 rear lenses, and you get really good auto exposure. You can see there as I walk out and the clouds readjust themselves. Now, unlike the S22 Ultra, there's no autofocus on the ultra wide camera. Not that you're going to be using it for that particular reason, but it's just something that you should note because there have been some slight sacrifices in the camera hardware when moving down from the S22 Ultra. But you can see the image quality is really nice all round, nice colours. A little bit oversaturated, but that is just Samsung's way. And overall, I think the video looks absolutely great with this camera. So that brings me then to the next lens, which is the 50 megapixel autofocus main camera. Now when we're talking about autofocus, let's just see how that works. And you can see you get nice smooth transitions between subject and background when you move the camera around, and you can get nice and close to subjects and get good detail at the same time. Now this particular lens can actually record at up to 8K at 24 frames per second, and I'll do a separate video showing that and you can see what that is about. But for now we're just going to concentrate at 4K at 30 frames per second. And you can see the image stabilization is just the same as the ultra wide camera, and what impresses me most is the color consistency between the lenses is really consistent, so you don't get that kind of chopping and changing you can get on some other handsets that I've tested out, which means that the colors are all mismatched. And then we've got the 10 megapixel telephoto camera. So this has 3 times optical zoom. Now we do need to stress that it's just 3 times optical, so anything else in between that is going to be digital until you get to the 3 times option. Now the good thing with this is you can get these really nice shallow depth of field effects you can see behind there, and it's autofocus as well. So if I just find something here, you can see it gets a nice smooth lock on the subjects, but with a more pronounced depth of field behind it. And you can do it this way as well, so focus there, but if I push there, you can see you get that nice telephoto camera effect that you may have seen on things like TV and film, where it looks much shallower, so the whole image is all on sort of one plane rather than you being able to perceive the depth between the two cameras. I'll just show you the difference of what I'm talking about. So if I go here, you can see that does look much further away, but if I go to the telephoto lens and frame the same shot, you can see that everything seems to be brought much closer, which is really cool. Now with the telephoto camera, you do get electronic stabilization, but one thing you do need to be aware of when using this lens is that in anything less than ideal lighting, it is going to chop and change between the main lens and the telephoto camera, in which case you'll have a 3 times crop rather than the 3 times telephoto option. Now you get 3 times tele, and then you can go all the way up to 12 times zoom, which doesn't look great as you can see there, but the option is there if you need it. I would say 5 times is about acceptable, and then we can pinch all the way back and go to the ultra wide camera. So there's all of the rear lenses then on the S22 Plus at 4K at 30 frames per second. Okay, so going up to 4K at 60 now. Now at 4K at 60 you can't move through all of the lenses whilst recording. You have to stop recording, select the lens you need, and then start recording again. Now in good daylight conditions, 4K 60 looks very much the same as 4K 30 in that it has excellent colours, nice stabilisation, and good amounts of detail all across the frame. Now even if I pan left and right, as you can see here, juddering is kept to a minimum. There is a little bit now and again where the processing is just lagging behind a little bit. I do need to stress this is the European / UK Exynos Galaxy S22 Plus, so if you're looking for a Snapdragon, you'll have to look elsewhere, I'm afraid. But I think for the vast majority of people, this video quality will be absolutely perfect for them. So main lens then at 4K 60, and you can see here just with the gentle wind blowing on these leaves, you get nice organic lifelike movement with the same image characteristics as 4K 30 with nice detail, good colour. and the autofocus behaves exactly the same whether you're at 4K 30 or 60, which means consistency wise across the board you're going to get a really good experience regardless of what resolution or frame rate or camera that you're using. And then finishing off then with the telephoto camera at 4K 60, and once again nice detail, good autofocus, and if you need you can just tap on any area of the screen and it will focus on that, so you can see it works nice and quickly, so you can get wherever subject focused nicely in the frame nice and quickly. And you can see that, as I was talking about, you get that cool narrow depth of field in the image, which looks really good. So there's all of the lenses at 4K 60 on the Galaxy S22 Plus then. And in addition to the standard video modes, you also get this super steady option. Now this records at 1080p at 30 frames per second, and you can use the ultra wide or the wide lens. Now there's a noticeable dip in the quality of the video. Now the super steady option basically just crops in on the main image, and then the bits that you can't see are used to stabilize the video just that little bit more. But as I've said in so many videos now, these kind of options are getting a little bit redundant. I know Apple have just brought out the iPhone 14 series and have introduced their motion mode. And whilst it's impressive, I don't think it's anything different to what I've seen on Android rival handsets. The quality may be better because I believe that records at 2.8K. That's a very Apple-like thing to do. But the actual motion and the stabilization doesn't seem to be any more impressive than what I've seen on some Android phones. Now, with the Galaxy S22 series, I've noticed that the motion mode is not quite as sort of locked on, so you don't get that super stabilization that you get on some other handsets. So OnePlus does a really good job with their super stable mode, as they call it. But this super steady option is still pretty good. And if I go for a quick run and show you, you can see that the image does look good, although you don't get that super rock solid stabilization that you get on some other devices. Now you can switch to the main camera. I think this is just the ultra wide lens just cropping to the equivalent focal length of the main lens. I can't be absolutely sure, but the autofocus does work, I believe, in this mode, so it must be using the main lens somehow, but you just don't get that smooth transition like you do when using just 4K 30 or 4K 60. Okay, I'm rounding things out for the main camera options. Is portrait mode on the rear cameras. I say cameras because you can use the main lens or you can use the telephoto camera. Obviously, I'm holding the phone at arm's length on my GorillaPod for this section of the video, and I know for a fact that my arm isn't long enough to show you the telephoto portrait video, so I'm just going to use the main lens. But as you can see, just like the front-facing camera, the image quality is really good. I've been really impressed with this mode and how Samsung have polished it over the years into how it looks now. It's got a really nice sort of colour scheme to it, and everything looks nice and natural. And I think they've done an excellent job overall with all of the camera hardware and software on the S22 series. It seems like a really nicely put together feature for these handsets and not just an afterthought. And the actual image processing this time round, compared to older Samsung handsets like the S20 series and to some degree the S21, is really impressive, especially if you use the new Expert RAW mode. It's not new anymore, it's been around for a good 6, maybe 8 months. But the ability to really dial down into what these cameras can do on an individual basis when they're rid of the shackles of the automatic software calibration is really good. And I hope you've enjoyed some of the images I've just shared on screen just to show you how good it is. Alright, so that's the end then of the ultimate video test for the Samsung Galaxy S22 Plus. I've not really bothered about zoom too much, so I'm talking about the 10 times zoom that you can get on the Galaxy S22 Ultra. Whilst that's a really impressive handset, it's also really big and unwieldy. If you don't really care about zoom, the S22 Plus is my pick of the bunch. It's a nice, decent sized handset. It's got a really lovely screen, which is actually brighter than the Galaxy S22. It's got a different kind of panel on here. It can get much brighter in both normal and HDR conditions. And you still get these excellent cameras, good battery life, and it just looks and feels like a really nice piece of kit. So if you're looking to save a bit of money, because these prices would have come down now on the S22 series, the Galaxy S22 Plus is my pick of the range. I think it's a really excellent smartphone, and you can't really go wrong because it does everything really well, in my opinion. So let me know what you think of the video that you've just seen down in the comments, and I will get back to you as soon as possible. And don't forget, if you're new around here, then please do consider subscribing so you don't miss more videos coming like this on the channel very, very soon. But for now, this has been my ultimate video test for the Samsung Galaxy S22 Plus. My name is Dave West, and I will catch you guys later.